Incredible moment, Grandma sees her daughter's eyes in Waitress Millionaire's shocking reaction. It was an ordinary Thursday at the diner, the air thick with the scent of grease and coffee. Sarah wiped a bead of sweat from her brow, her hands shaky as she served plates of meatloaf and mashed potatoes to the bustling crowd. Her heart ached with the weight of loss, her husband, gone too soon, leaving her with 2 young kids and a mountain of bills. But Sarah put on a brave face, her smile genuine even as her insides twisted. Across the room, laughter bubbled up around tables adorned with privilege and laughter, creating a stark contrast to her reality. Then, in walked Jack, a millionaire restaurant critic with an aura of arrogance. He settled into a corner booth, his gaze scanning the menu with apprehensive curiosity. All the while, Sarah approached with her familiar warmth. The moment their eyes met, Jack saw something in her. Something unmistakably sincere. He noticed the way her hands trembled slightly and how the resolve in her voice masked a truth deeper than any food critic's review could capture. "Just the usual for me, Sarah," he said, his tone softened by her presence. "What do you recommend?" "Honestly?" Sarah's voice caught. "If you want comfort, go for the chicken pot pie. But I really save my heart for the desserts. The chocolate cake is a dream." They fell into conversation, their exchanges revealing layers of heartache and dreams left unattended. Sarah spoke of her children, her dreams for them woven into the fabric of her words. Jack, too, felt drawn out of his cynicism, revealing his own layers of isolation from a family that loved money more than him. Traffic swirled outside, the day unfolding, oblivious to their budding connection. Suddenly, the bell above the diner's door swung open again. Ruth, Sarah's mother, entered the diner, her spark dimmed by years of struggling to make ends meet on a teacher's pension. As their eyes locked, something electric flickered between them. Jack, aware of the shift in energy, couldn't help but study the pair. They were reflections of each other, warmth and weariness tangled in shared lines on their faces. The resemblance was uncanny. "Mom!" Sarah rushed over, instinctively wrapping an arm around her mother. The moment rippled through Jack like a thunderclap, his heart racing with the realization of the roles Sarah and Ruth played in each other's lives. He felt the tug of family love, echoes of dreams distorted by hardship. Caught in this emotional whirlwind, Jack faced an agonizing moral conflict. Should he unleash a scathing review that would boost his career while tearing down Sarah's world? Or should he highlight her dreams and inspire the community to see her? As the thought spiraled in his mind, Jack saw the reflection of human struggle and resilience laid bare, and he hesitated, struggling with an answer. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just as Jack was about to make his choice, sirens blared in the distance, echoing through the diner. The laughter turned to whispers, eyes darting towards the window. Something was happening outside. Panic spread through the patrons. Jack's heart raced. He understood, suddenly, that the outcome of this incident could change everything, not just for him but for Sarah and Ruth. Would they rise above the chaos, or would the world continue to overlook their struggles? In that moment of uncertainty, hope flickered like a candle ready to ignite. The clamor of the diner broke like waves against the surf of uncertainty as patrons turned to the window. Jack followed their gaze, feeling an inexplicable pull in his gut. Outside, flashing lights cast a crimson hue over the street, illuminating the faces of concerned onlookers. The tension wrapped around him like a tight embrace, squeezing the breath from his lungs. "What is happening?" Ruth asked with worry painted across her features. Sarah's grip tightened around her mother's shoulders. "It looks like an accident. Maybe a robbery? I don't know." Panic crackled in her voice, but she fought it back. Her maternal instincts kicked in. She had to protect her children, her mother, and now, strangely, a blossoming connection with Jack. Jack watched as fear washed over the diner. He felt the impulse to act, a desire to shield them from whatever chaos lay beyond the safety of the glass doors. His conflict intensified. It was one thing to contemplate a review that could dramatically shift public perception, it was another to stand by and do nothing. "I'm going to check it out," he said, his voice steady though his heart raced. He slid out of the booth, drawing the eyes of both women and patrons alike. "I'll see what's going on." "Stay here." "Jack!" Sarah called, a frown creasing her brow. "Wait for the police." But he stepped outside, pulled by an invisible thread, a blend of courage and desperation coursing through him. The bustling streets he had always known seemed transformed, the jovial clamor replaced with shouts and the sound of a crowd growing anxious. Jack edged through the throng, determination in every stride. As he caught a glimpse of the scene unfolding, his heart dropped. Two cars lay crumpled together, glass shattering in the daylight, and the muffled cries of those involved broke through the surreal veil of the moment. A crowd had gathered, their faces twisted in concern. His mind raced. This wasn't just a story to tell. Lives were at stake. His phone buzzed violently in his pocket, but he ignored it, focusing on the situation ahead. A soberness fell over him, reminding him of the stakes, not just for himself but for Sarah and Ruth, who would undoubtedly be affected by any fallout from this incident. Back inside the diner, Sarah paced anxiously. Each second felt like an eternity. "I shouldn't have let him go," she murmured, her fists clenched. Ruth placed a comforting hand on her shoulder, though her own concern was reflected in her eyes. The bell jingled again, breaking the tension. A manager from the diner stepped in, his brow furrowed in worry. "It's serious out there. We might have to evacuate if this escalates." Sarah inhaled sharply. Her mind raced. If anything happens to Jack, the possibility hung between them like a heavy fog. Meanwhile, outside, Jack wrestled with his thoughts. Would his heart push him to be a hero today, or would his instincts zone in on self-preservation? His career whispered behind him, urging caution. But in that moment, he felt something shift deeply inside. He could no longer ignore the plight of those around him, the very same struggles he had once so easily dismissed. What had started as a simple meal had spiraled into something profound. With every step he took toward the chaos, he felt a responsibility settling over him, not just for his own fate, but for Sarah's dreams and Ruth's hopes. He had to make a choice. And as he squared his shoulders, a shout erupted from the crowd. Jack's gaze snapped forward. What was happening now? Would the moment define him, or would he simply become another bystander? The sirens blared louder, echoing his tumultuous thoughts as a new wave of anxiety swept over the streets. He took a breath, ready to step into the tumult. But as he did, something or someone caught his eye. It all hung in delicate balance, teetering at the edge of crisis. Did he have the strength to step forward for something that could save not just himself but everyone around him? The question loomed, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Jack took another step, his eyes darting across the frenzy unfolding before him. The air was thick with panic, yet something deep inside him ignited a spark of determination. He caught sight of a woman crumpled on the pavement beside one of the mangled cars. Her face was pale, a stark contrast against the dark asphalt, and Jack felt every fiber of his being pull him toward her. The crowd surged as people fought to get a better view, some reaching for their phones to capture the chaos. Jack pushed through, his heart racing. He knelt beside the woman and realized she was in shock. He could barely breathe. "Hey, can you hear me?" he asked gently. She nodded slowly, tears swelling in her eyes. "Please help." Her voice was barely a whisper. Jack took a calming breath, focusing on her, blocking out the chaotic backdrop. "What's your name?" "Lila," she replied, confusion clouding her features. "My daughter, she was in the other car." His heart dropped. "Lila, I need you to stay with me. We're going to get help. Just hold on." From the corner of his eye, Jack saw a man rush toward them, his face drawn with concern. It was an emergency responder, clad in a dark uniform, ready for action. Relief washed over him. "You're gonna be all right, Lila," he assured her, his voice steady. "Help is here." The responder knelt beside him, quickly assessing the situation. "I'll take it from here," he said, professionalism clashing with the urgency of the moment. Jack reluctantly stepped back, feeling the weight of helplessness settle on his shoulders as he watched the professionals take control. The sirens wailed closer, drowning out the rising panic from the crowd. But even in that moment of chaos, he couldn't shake the feeling of vulnerability in the pit of his stomach. He had crossed a line into unknown territory. Would he always face this kind of uncertainty now? A thought struck him. Sarah and Ruth, tucked away in the safety of the diner, waiting for his return. Would they understand why he went out there? Would they even want to see him again, knowing he chose to dive into danger instead of staying safe? Just then, a sudden commotion erupted on the other side of the street. Jack turned, and his stomach dropped further. A figure surged forward, a little girl whose frayed innocence pierced through the roast of chaos. She was crying, and her eyes darted about looking for someone, the panic spilling over her small frame. "No! Somebody stop her!" Someone shouted from the crowd. Without a second thought, Jack sprang into action, tearing past bystanders. His instincts screamed at him to protect that little girl. She stumbled, her legs refusing to cooperate as she fled toward the wreckage of the cars. "Hey! Stop!" he shouted, pushing through the bodies blocking his path. His heart thudded heavily in his chest. Time seemed to slow as he closed the distance. What if he didn't reach her in time? Just as he reached out, his hand grasped her tiny shoulder. "Hey! It's okay. I've got you," he urged, relief tingling down his spine. She turned wide-eyed, her small frame shaking in fear, but still, he felt the weight of every moment pressing on him, each noise blaring, each voice raising in panic. Would she ever know safety again? And as he led her away, a craving for connection tugged at him, a longing to protect, to mend what was broken, not just for this girl, but for everyone who felt lost in moments of calamity. As they stepped away from the madness, he glanced back at the wreckage. Something profound was changing inside him. Was he really ready for this responsibility? Was this the new path he was meant to walk? The sirens echoed loudly, blending into the backdrop of his thoughts. He turned to look at the girl, hoping to find comfort in her gaze. But what he saw in her eyes jolted him, an echo of something familiar, the raw need for comfort and safety illuminated in their depths. Jack took a deep breath, feeling anchored yet adrift. This moment, this connection, what would it ultimately mean for him? More than just choice, it was a revelation, drawing him deeper into a world he had always kept at arm's length. But the real question lingered: could he truly save others while grappling with his own inner storms? Jack hurried away from the mayhem, the little girl, whose name he now learned was Mia, clinging tightly to his hand. They made their way to a quieter corner beside a brick wall that shielded them from the chaos. As he crouched down before her, he could hear the sirens blaring and the frantic cries of bystanders filtering through the fog of his thoughts. "It's okay," he whispered, hoping his voice sounded steady even though his heart felt like it was in a vice. "You're safe now." Mia's small face was streaked with tears, her eyes wide and terrified. "I want my mommy," she sobbed, her words puncturing Jack's heart. He couldn't help but picture Sarah and Ruth, the way they'd smile and laugh, a special warmth filling his chest. Their safety, their love, was such a high priority for him, yet here he was, surrounded by fear. "Can we find her? Can we get her?" Mia's voice trembled, desperation in every syllable. Jack shifted, wanting to give her more than just words. He wanted to restore her sense of security, a feeling he feared he'd lost for himself. "I promise we will. We just need to stay here for a minute," he said, scanning the area. He saw responders already tending to Lila, whose face was now a mixed expression of relief and grief. Were they getting her the help she needed? And what about Mia's mother? Where was she? Stay close to me, he urged, putting a protective arm around Mia. But even as he did, a knot of dread twisted in his stomach. What if they never found her? The crowd began to dissipate slightly as the presence of emergency personnel grew stronger. Jack's instinct called him back to the chaos, needed to keep moving, to find answers. Let us go, Mia. We need to see if we can find your mom. They slipped through the remaining chaos, weaving in and out of startled faces and officers directing traffic with urgency. Every time he heard a commotion or a shout from the crowd, his heart jumped. Could it be her? Was Mia's mother nearby? And underneath the constant background wails, a voice called out, Mia. Jack's heart soared, guiding them toward the sound. He pressed on, pulling Mia gently behind him as they reached an area filled with more responders and onlookers. The sight of a woman, tear-stained and frantic, gripped him. Mia, she shouted again, her voice breaking. Jack recognized her instantly, Mia's mother. Without hesitation, he turned to Mia, urgency cracking his voice. That's her. Go. The girl broke from his embrace, her small legs carrying her toward her mother like a beacon of light piercing through darkness. Jack stepped back, letting the moment unfold. None of the adrenaline-fueled action could compare to the sight of reunion. Mia launched herself into her mother's arms, and Jack felt the warmth of their love radiate. That bond, how it lit up the daughter's face, filled Jack's heart with a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, in moments of chaos, love could still shine through, but as he watched them, a pang of longing hit him. That kind of love was what he craved for Sarah and Ruth to see in him, for them to understand this part of him, the part willing to step beyond fear for those who needed help. Mia's mother turned, still engulfed in emotion, and locked eyes with Jack. Gratitude echoed in her gaze, and for a fleeting moment, he felt connected, part of something bigger than himself. Then, all at once, the noise surged back. A series of loud voices erupted as another emergency vehicle arrived. Jack's calm was shattered as chaos swarmed around him again. He sensed that his connection to Mia and her mother was fleeting. Suddenly, he heard a woman's frantic scream from the other side of the crowded street. Panic surged back up, the air thickening once again. What was happening now? Could this day get worse? Jack felt adrenaline kick in as he braced himself. He had a choice now. Would he dive back into the chaos to face whatever was about to unfold, or would he turn away this time, back to the safety he craved? The path was clear, yet his heart raced with uncertainty as he moved toward the noise. What awaited him on the other side? He took one step forward, knowing full well there was no turning back now. Jack pushed through the crowd, his heart pounding with each hurried step. The air was thick with tension, a palpable current of fear running through the people lining the streets. Faces were blurred with worry, but he focused only on the frantic scream that echoed in his ears. Another desperate cry followed, sharper this time, compelling him to forge ahead. Mama! The voice, a small girl's, insisted. Jack felt a tug at his heart. He hesitated for a moment, but then lunged back into action, fueled by some instinct to protect not just Mia, but every lost soul seeking comfort in the turmoil. He slipped between two emergency vehicles parked haphazardly on the street, weaving past officers struggling to restore some semblance of order. There, amidst the confusion, he spotted a young girl, maybe Mia's age, frantically pulling her mother's arm, begging for her attention. The woman, wide-eyed and trembling, couldn't seem to find her bearings. Jack recognized that look. It was a reflection of fear and urgency that screamed, "I need to be saved." "Hey! Over here!" he called out, trying to reach the woman through the thickening throng. But his voice felt small, drowned out by the chaos surrounding him. He pressed onward, urging his legs to move faster, desperate to reach her. Suddenly, a loud clattering noise erupted nearby, and Jack's breath caught in his throat. A few feet away, a piece of debris fell to the ground from above, scattering on the pavement. The bystanders gasped and jumped back, retreating from the danger. In that moment of shock, the woman turned towards the commotion, her focus breaking away from her daughter. "Mommy, please!" the little girl cried, tugging harder at her mother's sleeve, causing Jack's heart to quicken further. "Look! Over there!" Jack shouted again, pointing toward an open area where more help was gathering. "You need to get your girl to safety." The woman's eyes met Jack's, and he could see a flicker of recognition, as if clarity broke through her panic just long enough to realize she wasn't alone. She nodded, and Jack felt the weight of thousands of unspoken words pass between them. With resolve, she turned back to her daughter, wrapping her arms around the girl, clutching her tightly. "Stay close," she whispered, her voice shaking. Jack watched as the pair slowly made their way toward the open area. Relief washed over him, but he couldn't shake the knot of anxiety tightening in his stomach. What else was lurking just beyond his line of sight? A sickening thud resonated from the other end of the street, catching his attention again. The crowd gasped as a man stumbled, clutching his side, his face plastered with panic. Jack took a deep breath. He knew there was no avoiding it. If he wanted to be any semblance of the person he envisioned himself to be, he had to face whatever lay before him. Stepping closer to the injured man, Jack shouted for help, his voice rising above the growing murmur of the crowd. The knot of fear twisted tighter in his chest, yet he felt an overwhelming urge to act. The challenges of the moment faded away as he focused solely on making a difference. "Hold on. Help is coming," he reassured, kneeling beside the man. "You're going to be okay." But the man's eyes were filled with uncertainty, mirroring the chaos around them. Just as Jack reached out to assist him, a siren pierced through the noise, a warning echoing in his ears. What else could unfold? What was about to change? And then, from the corner of his eye, he saw something shift in the crowd. A figure moving against the tide of fear. Someone familiar. Was it really? Jack's heart lurched as he squinted through the haze. The figure breaking through the crowd was disheveled but unmistakable, his mother, Nora. A rush of emotions flooded him, pulling him from the chaotic world surrounding him into a momentary bubble of comfort and nostalgia. But it was shattered by the urgency of the scene. "Nora!" he shouted, trying to weave back through the masses. But the crowd swelled and surged, pushing everyone in different directions. Panic ignited his limbs, and he didn't think twice before forcing his way toward her. "Jack!" she called out, her voice cracking as her eyes widened with both relief and confusion. Amidst the chaos, there was something so grounding about seeing her. Her presence was a thin thread connecting him to a world that felt increasingly unrecognizable. "Stay right there!" Jack yelled, even as he kept moving closer. He needed to get to her. He needed to make sure she was okay. But even as he fought through the overwhelming tide of people, something struck him. Why was she here? The tension tightened in his chest. If she was nearby, was Mia also safe? Did they all stay together, or had chaos pulled them apart? In that moment, Nora's face shifted from relief to distress. "Jack, where's Mia?" Her voice trembled, and the cheerful humor that usually surrounded his mother was replaced by fear. I don't know." Panic sliced through him. "I thought you were with her." His gut sank as he glanced around, the vision of his little girl anchoring his focus. He made a mental note of the last place he saw her, but it was buried under a mountain of noise and fear. "We have to find her, Mom." As they moved, the chaos swirled deeper. They pushed through clusters of frightened people, each face echoing a different version of Jack's own terror. Murmurs spread like wildfire, rumors of explosions, more injuries, and chaos. Suddenly, Jack felt a pull on his sleeve. He turned to see a child, hair matted with dirt, eyes wide with fear. "Have you seen my mommy?" The girl's voice was a whisper, yet it sliced through the frenzy. "I haven't, but don't worry. Let us find her together," Jack replied, his voice steady. He couldn't turn his back on this child. There were enough frightened faces already. Nora saw his determination and nodded. "We'll help her. We'll find her mother and then Mia." As they moved deeper into the crowd, Jack felt an unexpected surge of hope. They were moving as a unit, three lost souls searching for safety in each other's resolve. Together, they navigated through the sea of strangers. Over there. Jack's heart raced again as he spotted a group of people huddled around what looked like an aid station. "Let us go." As they approached, the sound of crying mixed with muffled voices reached their ears. Jack pulled the girl closer, shielding her through the throng. He felt her warmth against him, a reminder of why he was fighting so hard, but then, right when escape seemed possible, a distant explosion rocked the ground beneath them, sending a tremor through the air. The crowd stumbled, chaos erupted once more, and Jack felt the grip of the child slip from his hand in the panic. "No! Wait!" he shouted, but the girl was gone, swept away by the rushing tide. Jack's breath faltered as he turned back to Nora. "We have to get everyone to safety." But fear gnawed at him. How many children? How many mothers? As the sirens wailed louder, drowning out the noise, he struggled to stay calm. He had to get his family back together. There was no way he'd live with the piece of his heart lost in this nightmarish haze, but just as they gathered their resolve to push on, Jack caught sight of a familiar silhouette emerging from a shadow, small and determined, with a familiar, fearless stance. "Mia! Mia!" he shouted. But as she turned back to him, the hope in her eyes quickly faded into the dread that surrounded them. What had she seen? What did it mean? "Mia, wait!" But would he reach her in time? "Mia!" Jack shouted again, desperation strangling his voice. His heart raced, pounding against his ribs like a drum. He pushed forward through the crowd, heedless of the chaos around him. His little girl stood still for a moment, as if caught in time, her dark hair blowing in the erratic wind, eyes wide with confusion. But then the moment broke, and she turned away, bolting into the thickening crowd. "Mia, don't!" he cried, his lungs burning with panic. Nora grasped Jack's arm, pulling him back momentarily. "We have to stay together," she urged, her own voice tight with fear. "It's too dangerous to separate." But there was no separating him from the instinct to protect his daughter. The hairs on the back of his neck stood up as he felt the surge of bodies shifting around them. The world felt unreal, a distorted video where he was trapped inside a nightmare. "Mia!" he bellowed, pushing against the wave of people, his vision narrowed on her fleeting form. Just as he thought he might slip through the crowd, he lost sight of her again, swallowed whole by the mass of chaos. "Look!" Nora pointed, her voice strained but insistent. "There." Jack darted in the direction she gestured, his heart soaring and plummeting in a single breath. There, amid the throng, he spotted another group of children clutching each other's hands, their faces streaked with tears. Mia could be there, he thought, hope spilling over. "Jack!" Nora's voice pulled him back from the brink. He turned and saw her pale, fretting face framed by the chaos. "We need to stay close," a loud crash echoed, slicing through the air, and the crowd erupted into shrieks. Fear bubbled over, each sound pressing down harder, choking him. He felt a surge of adrenaline, a primal instinct to protect, to fight through the din of panic. "Mom! I'll find her." Without waiting for a response, Jack took off again, determined to find Mia. His heart raced a mile a minute, clarity sharpening his vision despite the chaos. He caught a glimpse of a pink coat flapping Mia's favorite. But just as he moved toward it, a wave of bodies pushed him back, a violent ripple that sent him staggering. "Please, someone help!" he shouted, but the noise swallowed his desperation. It felt like an eternity, but finally, he caught sight of that pink coat again, smudged and dirty, yet still vibrant amid the gray. His feet were moving before he even fully processed it, a command from his heart to his legs. "Mia, it's me. I'm coming." He barreled through the last of the crowd, arms outstretched. As he reached for her, the world around them faded to silence. In that moment, it was just the two of them. He pulled her into a fierce embrace, relief crashing over him like a tidal wave. "I thought I lost you." "I was scared, Dad," Mia whispered, her voice shaking. "The loud noises show, I've got you now. You're safe." Nora rushed up beside them, tears brimming in her eyes. Thank God you're okay." But their moment of reunion was still trickling into fear. The chaos was unyielding, louder than ever. The sirens blared like a war cry, and the ground trembled beneath them again. Jack's instincts flared up once more. "We can't stay here. We have to find a safe place." His mind raced, plotting an escape route. Just as they turned to move, a voice rang out above the chaos. A man in a suit, voice booming with authority, shouted for everyone to follow him toward the nearest exit. "Everyone, this way." Jack's stomach churned. He glanced back at Nora and Mia, both of whom looked terrified yet resolute. "Let us go," he urged, gripping their hands tightly. As they moved toward the exit, Jack's heart pounded a new rhythm, a pulse of hope mixed with trepidation. And just as they stepped closer, the sound of another explosion echoed in the distance, shaking him to his bones. "Mia, hold on tight." They plunged into the flow of people, the tide of humanity surging around them. But each step felt heavier, charged with uncertainty. Where would this lead them? In that moment, Jack knew they could only keep moving forward, through the shrouded fog of confusion and fear. But as they neared the exit, a sudden realization hit him like a physical blow. What awaited them on the other side? He tightened his grip on Mia's hand as uncertainty buzzed in the air. Whatever lay ahead, one thing was clear: they were not out of danger yet. The pounding of Jack's heart melded with the chaotic symphony around him as they surged toward what he hoped was safety. The man in the suit led them into a narrow hallway, walls cracking under the weight of fear. You could almost taste the tension in the air, sharp like static before a storm. "Mia, stay close," he warned, glancing back and forth as their surroundings shifted. His eyes darted to the faces of frightened strangers. They were all mirrors of his own emotions: wide eyes, trembling lips, the desperate hope for normalcy. "Are we going to be okay?" Mia asked, her small voice quivering on the edge of tears. It broke Jack's heart to see her so scared, her innocence pulled harshly into this nightmare. "Yeah, sweetheart. We're going to be okay," he lied, more to himself than to her. They pushed through the crowd together, battling the surge as the exits loomed ahead. Suddenly, Nora stumbled beside him, losing her footing in the jostling mass. Jack instinctively reached out, his hand grabbing her arm just in time. He felt a swell of relief that they were still together, but he only had seconds to savor it before their eyes locked, both knowing they could lose it all again in a blink. "Keep going. We'll make it," Nora urged him, rallying more courage than she felt. Jack nodded, feeling a flicker of determination rise inside him. He had to believe they would find a way out. As they reached the end of the corridor, the noise intensified, crashing waves that threatened to drown them alive. The exit sign glowed like a beacon, but Jack's stomach twisted at what lay ahead. Would it be more of the same? Would the chaos continue, or was there peace waiting on the other side? "Let us push through," he shouted, and propelled himself forward. Mia and Nora followed, driven by trust, by the instinct to survive together. In one swift motion, they tumbled out into the night air. But the world outside was paradoxically serene and terrifying. The chaos of the venue faded to muffled echoes behind them, yet the streets were eerily calm, punctuated only by the distant blare of sirens. Jack scanned the scene, his pulse quickening again. Shadows lingered under streetlights. He saw people huddled in groups, eyes wide and searching. It felt like a different universe, one where the clarity of night was blotted out by uncertainty. "Stay near me," he murmured, gently tugging Mia closer, her small hand still gripped in his. The comfort of her warmth was a lifeline in the uncertainty. Nora looked around, pacing slightly. Where do we go now? We can't just stay here. Jack's mind began to race. Options flashed by, but fear gnawed at the edges. We need to find a car. A way home. Before he finished, a loud bang, sharp and foreboding, sounded nearby, causing everyone to flinch and scatter. Jack's heart sank deep in his chest. He pulled Mia against him, shielding her as he scanned the area. Mia! Nora! He cried, looking for confirmation as adrenaline coursed through him, quickening his thoughts. We have to move. But as they attempted to flee, Jack noticed a figure standing at a distance, their silhouette puzzling against the bright lights. A woman. Something in the sharpness of her outline struck him. Mia, wait! He called, the recognition freezing him in place. The woman turned, and in that moment, Jack's breath caught in his throat. Why does she look so familiar? The realization dawned like a revelation yet to unravel. As confusion began to settle, Jack felt a shiver run down his spine. Who is that? What did this encounter mean for them? Time hung heavy in the air, poised on the threshold of another revelation he couldn't yet grasp. All he could think was how instinct tugged at him, beckoning him closer. Jack's heart raced as he tried to make sense of the woman standing before him. The way her hair fell over her shoulders, it was familiar, the profile too sharp to belong to a stranger. Then she turned, just enough for Jack to catch a glimpse of her eyes. A wave of recognition washed over him. They mirrored Mia's soft, yet with a haunted depth that made his stomach twist. Mia, he uttered, his voice barely a whisper. He felt her little hand tighten around his, seeking comfort he wasn't sure he could provide. Mia, is that a relative? Nora asked, glancing nervously between Jack and the stranger. Jack shook his head, feeling like his world was tilting on its axis. I don't know, he murmured. But I think I know her. As he took a few cautious steps forward, memories flooded back. A younger version of this woman dancing in a sunlit kitchen, warm laughter echoing off the walls. Trips to the park, stories filled with dreams and hope. But that all seemed like a distant dream now, buried beneath layers of time and choices. Mia, stay here, he instructed, not wanting to scare her with uncertainty. Jack approached the woman slowly, his heart pounding in his chest. Excuse me? He called out, feigning confidence he didn't feel. The woman paused, her eyes narrowing as she scanned the crowd, finally locking onto him with a tremor of recognition. Jack? Her voice cracked like glass, and it sent a shock through him. Is it really you? Jack searched her expression for signs of the warmth he remembered, but instead found a mixture of relief and fear. I thought that was you, she said, tears glistening in her eyes. I didn't think I thought I'd lost you all. Mama! Mia cried out, joy spilling from her little mouth. Without waiting for permission, she darted towards the woman, slipping from Jack's grasp and throwing her arms around her. Mia! Jack's heart raced as he watched, simultaneously thrilled and terrified. He could barely process the shift in emotions as his daughter embraced the stranger, a woman he had thought might still be lost to the darkness of history. The woman crouched down, enveloping Mia in a warm hug. Oh, my darling! You look so grown. Jack felt the air crack between them, an electric current swirling around the three of them, creating an invisible bond. All those years apart stitched together in an instant, binding them with hope and uncertainty. But how was she here? What did this mean for their journey? Jack's mind raced to find a logical explanation, but reason failed him in the warmth of familial connection unfolding in front of him. Nora remained a few steps back, conflicted and uncertain. Jack, do you want to talk? The woman stood back and wiped away the tears from her cheeks before looking at Jack more seriously. We need to move. It's not safe here. The distance between them shrank, but Jack hesitated. Wait, why are you here? Why now? I saw the news. I had to find you. I didn't know where else to go. I just knew. Her voice faltered, but determination flickered behind her eyes. Go where? What has happened? Why are we in danger? Jack's heart raced again, dread creeping in with the urgency. Jack, it's not just you anymore. They're after us all, she whispered, and the weight of those words settled heavy in the air. The reality crashed down on him, a chilling wave that made him question everything. Us all? He echoed, holding on to Mia tightly, dread pooling in his stomach. As the sirens echoed closer, Jack realized the chaos might be far from over. There was so much to unravel, and answers were itching just out of his reach. What had he walked into? As they stood on the precipice of something he couldn't yet understand, Jack felt a sudden chill. The night was more than just dark, it was filled with shadows he was terrified to confront. Let us go, now. He urged, as the sirens blared in the distance, the urgency palpable. But even as they moved, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that the answer he sought lay just beyond his grasp, waiting to pull them deeper into the storm. Who else was involved in this tangled web? And could he protect Mia from the dangers yet to come? Jack's heart raced as they hurried through the dimly lit streets. The sky was wrapped in a blanket of darkness, yet it was brighter than all the chaos they had just escaped. He glanced down at Mia, who now held on to the stranger, her grandmother, like a lifeline, the expression on her little face a mix of confusion and love. The three of them tangled together, grappling with emotions neither understood completely. Why are they after us? Jack finally managed to ask, looking at his mother, the urgency in his voice rising as adrenaline pumped through his veins. He felt a fierce protectiveness for Mia, not just out of fear but also from a growing sense of responsibility. Grandmother. Just the weight of the word there was solace, yet a shroud of uncertainty. They're not just looking for you, Jack. They've been looking for your mother for years. It's complicated, Nora replied, eyes darting nervously as they turned a corner. Jack's mind swirled, memories flickering through as he thought of the whispers he'd heard growing up, stories that never seemed to tell the whole truth. Complicated how? He pressed. Nora faced him, her voice soft but firm. We won't have time now to unpack it all, but you need to trust me. People in high places don't want the truth exposed. They'll stop at nothing. Jack's stomach knotted. He wanted to feel a sense of calm, to reassure Mia that everything was going to be okay. But the reality of the moment clung to him like sweat on a hot day. Just tell me what to do. Nora nodded, her determination lighting a fire in her features. We need a safe place until this blows over. I have a friend. Someone who can help us. Mia looked up at Jack, her little face troubled. Daddy, what is happening? She asked, her innocent eyes swimming with unshed tears. The heartache in her voice shattered him. Nothing is happening, sweetheart. We're going to be okay. Just stay by my side. They moved quickly, Jack's confidence building as he focused on Mia and Nora. With every step, he felt their kinship tighten, the electric connection of family springing forth from the shadows. As if sensing the shift, Mia whispered, I'm not scared as long as you aren't. With that simple observation, Jack's spirit soared. Protecting Mia was now his compass, guiding him forward. They made their way through the streets, avoiding the flashing lights that still flickered ominously in the distance. The air felt charged with something electric, a sensation that urged them to keep moving. Finally, they reached a rundown building nestled in a quiet alley. The paint peeled away from the wood, revealing layers accumulated through years of neglect. But it felt safe in a world gone manic. The door creaked open slowly, revealing dim interior shadows. Stay close, Jack urged, hoping his voice held more assurance than fear. As they stepped inside, the weight of the world seemed to press down on them, but within those walls was something familiar. Hope simmered on the edge of uncertainty. A grizzled man with a welcoming smile greeted them, his eyes sparkling with kindness. Nora. You made it. Bob, she replied, relief evident in her voice. This is my son, Jack, and my granddaughter, Mia. Bob knelt to Mia's level, the worn lines of his face softening as he spoke. Hey there, kiddo. I promise you're safe here. Mia, though anxious, returned his smile tentatively. The kindness in his eyes worked wonders. For a fleeting moment, she felt the burdens lift off her little shoulders. Seeing her smile brought warmth flooding back to Jack. Nora exhaled, a sound of vulnerability and solace mixed together. Jack, let's talk. There's a lot at stake and not much time. Jack nodded, settling himself against a wall, his attention full of intent. Okay, fill me in. We're all here, and we can't risk losing each other again. Nora's voice took on a steadiness as she began to share the tangled web of their past, her reasons for leaving, the secrets they all kept buried deep, even the involvement of powerful forces with eyes on their family. Every word pulled Jack deeper into a network of family ties and struggles, unearthing truths he'd never known but ultimately leading them to one undeniable conclusion: the strength of family would be their shield. The resonance of shared history illuminated their path forward. As the night draped around them like a comforting blanket, Jack held Mia's hand tightly, the undeniable bond of family igniting within their small space. Jack felt empowered. We'll stand together, no matter what comes next, he said firmly, the determination in his voice strong and unwavering. Mia's smile widened, her spirit rekindling alongside Jack's solemn vow. The silence was sweet, thick with possibility. They were safe for now, together once again. Jack marveled at how love could ignite hope even in the harshest of circumstances. It grew stronger, shimmering like a beacon, assuring them that with love, they might find their way through the murk, the chaos, the unknown, helping them forge a brighter future together. United as one, they were more than just individuals fighting against the tide. They were family, a force powerful enough to face the darkest corners of the world and emerge victorious. As the night deepened, Jack made a silent promise to protect this newfound warmth around him. No matter what darkness lay ahead, they would journey forward together. And in that moment, in that shared silence, a new chapter began to unfold, filled with hope, resilience, and the unbreakable bond of family. If you feel the power of family and the courage to stand against the odds just as Jack, Nora, and Mia have, you need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep these stories alive. I want to hear from you in the comments. Share your reactions and feelings about this ending because every voice matters. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. We can light the way for others just like we did here.